Hello there guys, Hirosaki here. This story is all about what if Naruto had the ability to be invisible. An accident bestows a completely new Kekai Genkai on an orphan boy, a blood limit that nobody could have foreseen. Please like and subscribe to this channel before we begin and check the description box for the author of this great storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 5. They're here. Ino's shouted declaration sliced through the thrum of conversation, and the three heads of clans promptly excused themselves from their respective conversations and walked, or in one case, ambled lazily, across to greet the new arrivals. Lord Hayashi. Inoichi started and then he paused, staring at the dark-haired man. Wow. Chusa said. Nice tunic. Hitomi embroidered it for me. Hayashi replied, giving his wife a small but heartfelt smile. Since this gathering was explicitly described as being casual wear, I thought it would be suitable. Great design. Chusa noted, I like how the trousers bring the colors out more. The flowers are very recognizable. I'm impressed. Inoichi added. Thank you. Hayashi nodded as Hitomi smiled, then he looked down at the three children with him. Hinata, Hanabi, go and socialize. Ruto, you go as well, but we may need you later. Ruto half-bowed and then turned to follow the two girls. As he caught up to them, Hinata snagged one of his arms while Hanabi scrambled onto his back. Ino scurried across to guide them to where the other youngsters of the clans had assembled. We're glad you could make it. Shikako noted, then his mouth turned slightly upwards. We'll try not to make it too troublesome for you. Hayashi's lips twitched briefly into a smile at Shikako's little joke as he allowed his wife and himself to be led towards one of the several groups of adults. By the way, where's Niji? He came down with a cold and sends his apologies. Hey, Ruto, Hinata. Choji said in greeting as Ino dragged the trio to them. Hello. Hanabi. Came the giggling response and Choji nodded to the little girl perched on Naruto's back. Hello Hanabi-chan. Don't I deserve a chan? Hinata mock-whined and Choji started stammering before Hinata giggled, giving away the fact that she was joking. And I thought Ino was the only troublesome girl here. What was that, Shika? Ino roared and Shikamaru simply sighed. Sorry. You are the only one. Ino blinked several times as she thought about what he had said, then she turned to Hinata. Just ignore him. Hinata giggled again as Naruto swung Hanabi down to the ground. Hanabi promptly scurried over to Choji and tried to climb up his side, much to the large boy's surprise. Hanabi-chan loves shoulder rides. Naruto shrugged and Choji nodded. Reaching down, he plucked Hanabi off the ground and placed the laughing girl on his own shoulders. My dad used to carry me like this when I was young. He explained with a slight shrug. May as well get some practice in. Hanabi giggled as Choji started to lumber forwards. He moves almost the same way Hinata does. Shikako noted and Hayashi nodded slightly. My brother is teaching him the katas of Bagwazang. Hayashi said and the other three jonin nodded. The art Juken evolved from. Inoichi commented. Explains a lot. But he's learning another style, a more linear one. Shikako continued, watching as Chusa's son laughed at something Hinata had said. And until now I thought that Madogai was supposed to be the taijutsu expert of Konoha. Hayashi deadpanned. Just warn us before you decide to start wearing green spandex, please. Chusa had unfortunately been drinking as Hayashi made his comment, and his snort of laughter resulted in a dramatic spray of watered fruit juice briefly encompassing his head. Choking, he made several grasping motions until Hayashi fished a handkerchief from his pocket and handed it over so that the larger man could wipe his face. I think I need to ask my cousin to remove that image from my mind. Inoichi stated, although his grin belied his words. Shika in green spandex, that picture is troublesome. Choza laughed as Shikako responded to Inoichi's comment the same way that he had responded to Hayashi's. Passing the cloth across to his teammate, he smirked as Shikako wiped the drink from his face. I think that this is going to be a fun gathering, he chortled, glancing at the group of children. Hinata dropped her toothbrush back into its cup before walking into the bedroom. Climbing into bed, she briefly activated her Byakugan before snuggling against her fiancé, her head resting on his shoulder and his chin pressed against her scalp. I thought that today went very well, Naruto said quietly, and Hinata nodded with a slight hum of pleasure as Naruto's arm wrapped around her shoulders. I think Hanabi wanted to adopt Choji as her newest big brother, Naruto added, causing Hinata to nod and giggle at the memory of Choji's face when Hanabi had flopped into his lap, snuggled into his chest and fallen asleep. He'll be a great father someday. Hinata nodded again, then she sighed. I think Shikamaru suspects. Naruto stroked her hair as he considered his answer. Before they had left for the Nara compound, Hayashi had briefly and privately informed Naruto about how Shikamaru had deduced his real identity and his Kekkei Genkai, although Shikamaru had also wrongly deduced that Naruto went cloaked all the time because of lightning-induced burns and not because he couldn't actually deactivate his invisibility. Ino was asking about how we lived together. Hinata giggled. When I told her we slept in the same bed, she almost fainted. So that's why she was giving me odd looks, Naruto realized. I wondered why she kept turning red. Hinata released another giggle as she snuggled closer to her fiancé. You kept doing that after we first met too, Naruto realized. You never told me why though. Hinata didn't answer and Naruto glanced down, smiling as he realized that she had fallen asleep. Sleep well, Hinata-heim, he whispered, then he reached out and snagged the blindfold that he wore to reduce the amount of light that reached his eyes. Being invisible meant that quite often, he'd find himself able to see the inside of the blindfold depending on the ambient light, but it was still better than seeing every stray beam of light from the lanterns that illuminated the paths at night. Invisible eyelids were often more trouble than people thought. I think that went well, Choza said as he lifted his saucer of sake. Shikako nodded lazily in agreement. I think my daughter learned far more than she ever expected to, Inoichi sniggered. I lost count of how many times she blushed whenever Hinata or Roto were near her. Choza chuckled at the memory, then his smile widened. When Choji finally grows up, he'll make a great dad. I heard the youngest Hyuga call him cousin while he was giving her a shoulder ride. So. Shikako yawned. Your opinion. Do you think that the gamble will pay off? Heck, yes. Choza, grinning widely. A clan alliance with a clan of ultimate stealth practitioners and the Hyuga? I'd say that was more than worth the risk. Might be worth thinking about team variations for future generations. Inoichi mused. I mean, the Inoshika Cho-style team is getting to be quite well known, and as we all know, predictability is the downfall of a ninja. True. Shikako agreed. Let's think about this, 5 possibilities. That gives 10 team variations just using the Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka, Hyuga and Urei without repetition, and Akamichi Hyuga Urei would be best suited to heavy combat missions while Yamanaka Hyuga Urei would be far superior in infiltration. For capture, a Yamanaka Nara Hyuga would work best. Assuming that Roto's chakra pool breeds true, the Urei clan will undoubtedly specialize in Kage Bunshin, thus significantly boosting their recon and covert assault skills. Have you been giving this some thought? Inoichi asked in amusement and Shikako shook his head. No. At least, not until you mentioned it. We may want to approach Hayashi about the possibility of occasionally training our children together so that they can get used to each other's combat styles. An interesting thought, Inoichi admitted. Having a Yamanaka protected by a Hyuga and an Akamichi, so that they can use one of our wide-area techniques safely could be a true game-changer in large-scale battles. I think I'm following. Chozo nodded. Of course, we won't see it in this generation or much in the next, unless they choose to have a lot of children. But if their clan thrives, our great-grandchildren will be part of an alliance that will guarantee Konoha's primacy for as long as our clans last. Inoichi said, then he smirked. And that is where we differ from those civilians. If they don't see a possible result in a few years, they don't bother, and then they wonder why we shinobi are so far ahead of them. Hinata woke up and snuggled against Naruto, listening to the beat of his heart through his ribcage. For a moment, she thought about getting up, then she smiled as, while still asleep, Naruto's arms tightened around her. Sister. Hinata's eyes flew open as Hanabi landed on them both, waking Naruto in the process. Hanabi. Hinata half scolded. Why do you keep doing that to us? Morning cuddles. Hanabi exclaimed, squirming in between Naruto and Hinata, then smiling at them as innocently as possible in the dawnlight. Let me get this straight. Naruto said, laughter flickering in his voice. You woke up and instead of going to your parents, you instead decided to go down the corridor, through the hall, around the mansion and into our home just to get your morning cuddles. Aha. Hinata sighed, then pulled Hanabi to her side of the bed, letting Naruto get up. You know that we have special training today, right? She asked as Naruto carefully deactivated the alarm clock before it could go off. Hinata opened her mouth, then looked at Naruto apologetically. Okay, Hanabi, we've got an extra towel so you can bathe with me before we have breakfast. I'll have a quick wash and then get out the clothes you need. Naruto laughed. And I'll pull out some of Hanabi-chan's clothes too. Hinata bit back a giggle at the reminder that her younger sister visited so often that they had given in and stored some of her clothing in a trunk for occasions such as those. Good morning, children. Good morning, uncle. Hinata said as she bowed. Good morning, Hizashi-sama. Naruto echoed, then he turned his attention to the boy standing next to Hizashi. Good morning, Niji-san. I am pleased to see that you have recovered from your cold. Good morning, Niji-san. Hinata echoed with a slight smile and Niji bowed stiffly. Good morning, Hinata-san, Ruto-san. Since all three of you have mastered both tree walking and water walking, it is time for you to begin learning the jutsu that was granted to the Hyuga for our alliance with the soon-to-be Urei clan. Hizashi said as he extended his arm. Hinata, Niji, use your eyes for this. Both children activated their Byakugan, and a blue sphere slowly formed in Hizashi's hand. Once complete, he held it for half a minute, then let it dissipate. What you three just saw was the Rasengan, one of the signature jutsu of the Yondaime Hokage. There are 3 stages to its development. Rotation, power and stability. You must rotate the chakra in all directions, you must do so strongly, and you must maintain it even during its use like this. A full Rasengan appeared in Hizashi's hand within a split second, and he turned and thrust it at the training log next to him. The sphere sank into the log, generating a cloud of splinters, then the log cracked into pieces and was hurled away. The Rasengan is both simple and complex at the same time, it makes the Kaiten look almost uncontrolled by comparison. Hizashi said, allowing the blue globe to dissipate again. For the first stage, I have a box of water balloons. Please take one and try to spiral the water inside until the balloon bursts. Once you can do that, we will move to the next stage. Uncle Hizashi. Hinata said quietly. About the Rasengan, does anyone else know that the Hyuga know it? Not at this time. Hizashi replied. Until one of our number has no choice but to use it in public, we are to keep it quiet so that we have an advantage that our enemies do not expect. That means that you must not use it outside the compound unless told otherwise. We will practice for an hour, and then we will move on to other jutsu. Ruto-san, there is a special one for you which your chakra reserves will allow you to make use of, but you must read the scroll first. Hi, Hizashi-sensei. Naruto replied as he accepted a water balloon. Sitting down to let himself concentrate better, he carefully extended some of his chakra and swirled the water first one way, then a second and a third, getting a feel for it. The more ways you can rotate it at once, the better, Hayazashi said, watching Hinata's attempts. Ideally you should spiral your chakra in all directions. Naruto nodded slightly and turned his attention back to the water balloon in his hands. A pop distracted him, and he looked up to see Hinata triumphantly hold up several wet scraps of rubber. Well done, Hinata-sama. Hizashi smiled. Perhaps you can help Ruto-san since you can see his chakra whereas the rest of us cannot. Hinata nodded and scooted to Naruto's side. After a moment, she leaned closer to him. You're spinning it in only one direction, Ruto-kun. Think of it like a whirlpool, but all round. Naruto nodded and turned his concentration to the small ball of water once again. A moment passed, then Naruto sighed and shook his head. I need a different approach. Perhaps this may help, Hizashi said, handing a small scroll over. Naruto accepted it and opened it. Kage Bunshin? You have more than enough chakra for that, and its learning attributes may help you in much the same way that the Byakugan helps us Hyuga to learn. Hizashi explained. Read the scroll and learn the jutsu while Hinata-san and Niji-kun learn the Rasengan. Once you have the Kage Bunshin mastered, I am certain that Hinata-san will be eager to oversee your tuition in your father's jutsu. Naruto nodded in gratitude and walked to the corner of the field, settling down to read through the scroll, while Hinata continued to practice exploding the water balloons. After half an hour, she gave her uncle a curious glance. I have to ask, how does Kage Bunshin differ from the normal Bunshin? Bunshin. Shadow clones are chakra constructs that are solid, Hizashi explained. They require a large amount of chakra, which is why you generally have to be at least Haichunin before you are allowed to learn it. The amount of chakra it needs is normally between 1 and 2/3 of the average Haichunin's chakra pools. With Ruto-san's chakra reservoirs, he probably will not even notice the drain needed to make a single clone. It will be interesting to see how many he can create. Hinata nodded, then she frowned. Will the clones be invisible too? Almost certainly. Hizashi nodded. With Ruto's chakra being impossible for most of us to see, we can expect his clones to be likewise. Done it. Everyone turned to see and Hizashi's eyebrows shot up as he looked at the 7 Narutos. How? Easy. Naruto shrugged. It uses loads of chakra, and chakra is what I have loads of. Even so, that was, what? Your first go? Third. Naruto laughed. All those chakra exercises really helped me work out how my chakra was supposed to be shaped. Well, Hizashi said after a moment, use one of your clones to finish reading the scroll. By the way, why aren't your clones invisible? Naruto tilted his head in confusion, then turned to look at his clones. They are. Their clothes aren't. Neither are mine. Naruto pointed out and Hizashi squeezed his eyes closed as he pinched the bridge of his nose. Naruto-sama, your clones are made from your chakra, which is invisible, so they should be invisible as well. Really? Naruto asked. I didn't know that. Did you even read the notes on the jutsu? Naruto shook his head and Hizashi sighed. Have your clone dispel after it finishes reading the scroll. Maybe later we can work out just how you managed to do that. Hayashi stared at his brother in near shock. Let me see if I understand this. Despite his chakra being invisible, Naruto can create clones with clothing as visible as his own. In addition, his henge lets him attain full visibility. Yes, brother. Hizashi replied stoically, not showing a single trace of the near breakdown he'd had as he had tried to understand how Naruto had managed something that really shouldn't have been possible. I must point out that unlike a normal henge, which is a genjutsu overlay, Naruto-san's version is an actual shape change, although his chakra remains invisible. That shouldn't be possible. Hayashi managed and Hizashi shrugged slightly. I believe that we will find ourselves saying that quite a bit in the next few years, brother. Naruto-san seems to redefine the rules of jutsu. Both my son and Hinata-sama are trying to learn Naruto-san's version of the henge. Hayashi nodded slowly. I admit that I'm amazed at how fast he learned the Kagebunshin. I was as well, until I thought about it. Hizashi said, and Hayashi cocked an inquisitive eyebrow at him. Naruto-san and Hinata-sama help each other almost constantly. Hinata-sama said that she taught Naruto-san how to concentrate, while he helped her to learn new ways of looking at situations, such as that interesting training session you had with her last week. Hayashi hit a wince. Hinata had asked for permission to prepare for the sparring session beforehand, and Hayashi hadn't realized just what she meant. As a result, he had finished the session covered in paint and itching powder from the various traps that Hinata and Naruto had concealed around, beneath and above the sparring square, while the bruises from the catapulted rubber balls had taken several days to fade, even with the application of healing jutsu. Hayashi had made a mental note to never give Hinata permission to prepare like that again, and to also ensure that the Hyuga clan's training in traps and trap detection was at least doubled. It was quite terrifying how even with the Byakugan, he had been hard-pressed to see the traps before they activated. I oversaw them taking an intelligence test a couple of weeks ago. Hizashi said, and Hayashi snapped his mental meanderings back to what his brother was saying. Naruto has a very unusual type of intelligence. Although he is only very slightly above average in most things, when it comes to improvisation or kinesthetic learning, he is at genius level. Hinata-sama rates as more intelligent than him in general, but she does not have the same out-of-the-box thinking abilities as Naruto-san. I sometimes wonder if Naruto-san even knows there is a box to think outside of. And that means? Hayashi prompted. That Naruto-san quite literally learns by doing. Hizashi said. He learns from every attempt he makes, it does not matter if he succeeds or fails. Impressive. Hayashi managed, and Hizashi's lips quirked briefly into what an observer might uncharitably call a smirk. He is a genius of hard work. It is no wonder that he, Rock Lee and Mato Guy get along so well. Hayashi almost managed to hide a wince at the reminder. He still hadn't lived down the fact that he had lost a bet and thus had to wear a green spandex unitard to one of Mato Guy's training exercises. Fortunately, Hinata had put her foot down and somehow persuaded Lee not to wear a similar outfit himself. Hayashi wasn't sure if he could stomach seeing two shinobi in that ever-damned outfit. Should we expedite their passage through the academy? Hizashi shook his head. I would not advise it, brother. They have friends and are forming bonds with the various clan heirs. I do not see how removing them from it will help the clan. Hayashi nodded slowly. His brother was right, which was why he relied on him so much. Fortunately, he didn't need to worry about what would happen should his brother not be there to help. Kami only knew what might have happened had that been the case. Chapter 6. Umino Irika entered the classroom and hid a smile as the noise level dropped precipitously. Behind him, Mizuki closed the door and made his way to the smaller desk in the corner of the room as Irika took his place behind the main desk, looking out at the students before him. As you know, today is the day that you are tested to see if you can become Jinin of Konohagakure. He said with a proud smile. All of you here have demonstrated that you have the basic skills required to become a shinobi, but now it is time to officially prove it. Mizuki? Mizuki nodded as he pulled a sheaf of papers from the desk and moved around the classroom, placing one set of papers in front of each of the students. You have half an hour to answer as many of the questions as you can. Irika said, looking at the clock mounted on the wall. The test will end at 9:30. You may begin. Within seconds, the sound of pencils scraping against paper filled the classroom and Mizuki returned to stand beside Irika. So, who do you think will be Rookie of the Year? He said quietly. My money would be on Uchiha Sasuke if I was allowed to bet. Ever since his brother discovered that Sasuke's main affinity was lightning rather than fire, he's been making considerable progress. I think it'll be either Hyuga Hinata or Yuri Iruto. Irika countered, keeping an eye out to ensure that no one was cheating. You've seen how the two of them push each other to do better. Mizuki nodded, then he glanced over at the girl with bright pink hair. I thought that Haruno Sakura would be the Kunoichi of the year. She's really improved her physical capabilities after Sasuke was overheard saying that he had no interest in weak girls, and with her memory skills. Almost as good as Nara Shikamaru, I know. Irika noted, glaring at where the aforementioned boy had fallen asleep. Fortunately, she doesn't have his laziness. Looks like Inuzuka Kiba will be the dead last. Mizuki added as he glanced over at the tattooed boy who was swearing under his breath as he struggled with the exam sheet. Inuzuka's never do well with anything paper-related, as his mother so memorably proved. Irika managed not to laugh as he remembered Inuzuka Tsume's last foray into trying to deal with paperwork while the Hokage was away on business. The floor of the Hokage's office still showed traces of ash and claw marks from when she had lost her temper with the bureaucratic process. Yamanaka Ino's doing almost as well as Sakura, Mizuka stated in surprise. I knew that they were friends, but they often trained together, Irika supplied, earning a curious glance. Several of the clans are partially cross-training their children. The move was started by the Nara and the Hyuga, and the others soon joined in. Even the Aburame. Both teachers glanced at the shades-wearing dark-haired stoic boy in the corner furthest from the windows. I heard that Choji has already taken several unofficial missions babysitting the younger Hyuga daughter, Irika added as the chubby boy in question turned over the first page of the test and started on the second. Rumor has it that she calls him cousin now. I heard that as well, Mizuki noted, then he snorted in amusement. You realize that we've just swapped gossip about all 9 of our students. Irika paused, then grinned in wry amusement. Sweet Kami, we've turned into a pair of old housewives. Back to speaking of the Uchiha, Mizuki said, referring to an earlier point in their conversation, I heard that Itachi is being personally trained by Hiruzen to take over as the new Hokage in a few more years. An Uchiha as the Godame Hokage, Irika mused. That would certainly fulfill Uchiha Madara's dream, wouldn't it? Mizuki nodded and looked over the industrious students once again. You know, the Yandame's son would have been amongst this lot had he not died and taken the Kyuubi with him. Naruto? Irika mused, missing the way that the masked student twitched slightly as he said it. Yeah, now that you mention it, he would have been. He would have become an amazing ninja. Or a terrible one, given how many people couldn't tell the difference between him and the Kyuubi. Mizuki countered and Irika slowly nodded. I'd like to think I wouldn't have made that mistake, but maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't. But it didn't happen, so there's no need to worry about it. Mizuki shrugged. The chattering students filed off the taijutsu practice area, or limped in a couple of cases, and onto the target range, congregating behind the safety line as Mizuki started to hand out kunai and shuriken to those who didn't already have enough. All right, Irika stated. When I call your name, step forwards and demonstrate your proficiency with shuriken first, then kunai. Aburame. Shino stepped forwards and with methodical, precise moves, flung his shuriken and kunai at the man-shaped targets. Irika nodded as he looked at the results. 3 fatal strikes on the kunai for bleed-out points with the shuriken, 83 points total. Akamichi. Hinata's grip tightened on Naruto's hand, and he looked at her. You'll do fine, Hinata Haim. With your skills, your score will be perfect, just like you are. Hinata blushed and giggled as she swatted Naruto's shoulder. Have you been taking lessons from Ko? You're turning into almost as large a flirt as he is. But it's only you I flirt with, because to me, you're the only one worth flirting with. Naruto shot back, causing Hinata's blush to intensify even as she let him enfold her in a reassuring hug. Hyuga. Iruka called, interrupting them, and Hinata sighed as she extracted herself from Naruto's embrace. Go and show them how perfect you are. Naruto whispered and Hinata stepped forwards to the line. Opening her kunai pouch, she paused for a second, then spun on the spot, using her spin to accelerate the projectiles so that they thunked into the targets. Several of the others whistled in amazement. Perfect score, Iruka said in amazement as Hinata retrieved her weapons. Inuzuka. Final test. Iruka said as Naruto retrieved his weapons and pocketed them with a hidden smirk since he had equaled both Hinata and Sasuke's score. The 3 Academy Basics or advanced versions thereof, and for bonus points, up to 2 more jutsu of your choice. Once again, we will be going in alphabetical order. Hinata glanced at Naruto, then blinked. Ruto-kun, why are you hinged as yourself? My visible clothes are over there. Naruto whispered back, motioning to a small bush growing by the corner of the academy. I'm going to use my natural invisibility as one of my bonus jutsu. Hinata nodded in understanding, then she glanced over at the fence and her eyes widened as Ko walked past, giving her a significant glance, and then looking at the covered board that he was carrying under his arm. Activating her Byakugan, Hinata looked at the board, then nodded to show that she understood the message written on it. What is it, Hinata-heim? One of the clan was seen using the Rasengan in the field and word has spread. Hinata whispered back. I can now use it in public. That's one of your bonus jutsu sorted then. Naruto noted and Hinata nodded as Shino made a Kikai Bunshin, instead of the Academy variant, then used Kawarimi to swap places with it before dispelling it back into its constituent insects. Will you be doing an Academy Bunshin? Hinata shook her head. No, I've been practicing the Mizu Bunshin. I've also got the 32 strikes mastered, so I'll be using that as well. Naruto nodded. Nice. We've got the Rookie and Kunoichi of the Year positions secured. Hinata nodded as on the demonstration area, Choji turned himself into a human sphere and started to roll. What other jutsu are you planning to do, Ruto-kun? Naruto shrugged. I still can't do the other of the 2 jutsus of my father's, while doing my mother's jutsu is not an option if I wish to keep my secret. You're doing the Rasengan, and I don't want to lessen the impact. I think Great Breakthrough while still invisible would be best. Hinata nodded, looked at Sakura, who was finishing the Kawarimi. I guess I'm up now. She sighed as she walked onto the testing area. Bowing to Iruka and Mizuki, she performed a perfect Kawarimi, and then hinged into Naruto before reverting back. A couple of hand seals caused several of the students to gasp as water flowed out of the nearby pond, placed for use with Suiten jutsus, and rose to form 3 solid clones of Hinata. Excellent on the 3. Iruka nodded. Do you have any bonus jutsu you wish to demonstrate? Hinata nodded and faced one of the training dummies. 8 trigrams, 32 palms. She announced and her hands blurred, striking the dummy with brief bursts of chakra. Stepping back, she then held out one hand and the entire field seemed to freeze as a pale blue chakra sphere formed on it. Rasengan. The sphere ripped through the dummy, sending the top half flying and Mizuki whistled. That was incredible. How do you know the Yandame's second jutsu? It was gifted to the Hyuga clan several years ago. Hinata explained and Iruka nodded. Perfect score with bonus points. Well done. Hinata bowed and scurried back to Naruto's side, blushing slightly as he hugged her. You did brilliantly, Hinata-heim. He whispered. Hinata smiled and relaxed into his embrace until she heard Naruto being called. Win. She whispered and Naruto nodded as he strode forwards, coming to a stop in the middle of the testing ground. Activating her Byakugan, Hinata managed not to giggle at the sight of a dozen of Naruto's invisible Kage Bunshin taking position around the field even as Naruto hinged into her, and then back again. A second later, Naruto seemed to flicker around the field as the clones sequentially replaced themselves with him, causing almost everyone's jaws to drop, then Naruto spun and 3 of the clones hinged into visibility, making it seem like he had done a seal-less bunshin. Perfect score. Iruka finally managed. Any bonus jutsu? My Kekai Genkai. Naruto replied as he slowly released his hinge, making it seem that he was fading into invisibility. A moment passed, then a blast of wind caused the trees along the side of the field to bow, leaves scattering in the unexpected gust. Great breakthrough. Naruto said, hinging himself back into visibility. Performed while invisible, and to prove it was me. Flashing through the hand signs, Naruto unleashed another gust at the trees. Incredible. Iruka breathed in amazement. You get full bonus points. The Hokage's office was fairly crowded as Sarutobi Hiruzen handed out the assignments to the Jonin volunteers. And that's almost all of the civilian-born. He finished. Hopefully some of the teams will make it, and of the rest, we may be able to salvage a few more for our regular forces. You may go. The Jonin filed out, leaving only 3 remaining. Hiruzen leaned back and looked at the trio. Kakashi, I'm assigning you to Team 10, the new Ino Shikacho trio. Since they already have their teamwork up to better than average levels, according to what their fathers told me, you should be able to move on to helping them come up with new ways to use their skills. Hi, Hokage-sama. The silver-haired Jonin said lazily, his one exposed eye gazing at the orange-colored book he was holding. Kurenai, I'm giving you Team 8, Uchiha Sasuke, Aburame Shino, and Haruno Sakura. With their abilities, they should excel at tracking and infiltration. I would advise you to get Sakura trained as a med-nin at the very least. She has chakra control about equal to yours, although her reserves could use some work. Yes, Lord Hokage. The dark-haired red-eyed woman replied, then she glanced at the third Jonin. I will look after your brother, don't worry. Thank you. As for you, Itachi, I'm giving you Team 7, the rookie and Kunoichi of the year plus the dead last. Yuri Iruto, Hyuga Hinata and Inuzuka Kiba. Itachi's lips curled into a slight smile. This should be interesting. Yes, when are you and Hana going to get married anyway? Kakashi asked, and Itachi's lips quirked upwards for a brief second. So, I get the ghost, the princess and my future brother-in-law on my team. Itachi mused. This will be. Itachi paused as a knock sounded on the door, then it opened to reveal a bearded man. Hi, Pops. Asuma. Hiruzen said with a nod. You missed out on all the fun, I was assigning teams. I'm afraid that if you want one, you'll have to try again in 6 months. What kept you? Meh, diplomatic stuff. Asuma shrugged. The daimyo was doing an inspection of his samurai's bases and things got fraught for a while when some things that someone had tried to import from the land of demons managed to escape. We got it under control, but I had to spend a month healing before I could return. Well, at least Konohamaru will be happy to see you. Hiruzen smiled. Oh. Itachi, one of your students has a strong wind affinity. Both Itachi and Asuma looked at Hiruzen in interest, and the old man smirked at them. I'll let you figure out which one. For a moment, no one spoke, then Itachi turned to face Asuma. When it is time. Sure, but you'll owe me for when I get my own team. Asuma replied. Itachi simply nodded. Understood. Congratulations. Hayashi said. Rookie and Kunoichi of the year. Thanks, Hayashi-sama. Naruto laughed as he intercepted a ballistic Hanabi and swung her up to his shoulders. So, the Rasengan is now public knowledge? It is. Hayashi confirmed. Hyuga Akane was unable to take down all of her enemies during a mission, and at least one enemy shinobi managed to retreat after witnessing her using a Rasengan to take down an enemy who was using some strange form of stone body armor. Stone body armor? Naruto repeated in surprise. Wow, that would do a real number on Juken's capabilities under normal circumstances. Indeed. Hayashi agreed. Had it not been for the Rasengan, Akane might even now be in captivity. Hinata hugged Naruto, taking care not to dislodge her sister. Thank you. Oh, I have gifts for you both to celebrate your passing. Hayashi said, and Hizashi entered with a pair of boxes. He handed one each to Naruto and Hinata, then plucked Hanabi off Naruto's shoulders, placing her on his own before she could protest. Thank you. Hinata gasped as she opened her present to reveal a kimono patterned with the Hyuga crest, the Urei crest, and the Konoha leaf in a triangle on the back. That is a battle kimono. Hayashi said. The obi contains a number of storage seals sewn into the fabric, while the kimono itself has a mesh armor layer for protection against slashing attacks. Hinata returned the kimono to its box and gave her father a hug. Thank you, Toussaint. You are welcome. Hayashi whispered, then he looked at Naruto, who was examining the contents of his box, holding up a facial protector engraved with the Konoha symbol. The Hapurai is made of chakra metal. Please place some of your own chakra into it. Naruto did so, and the Hapurai and the fabric band that it was mounted on both faded into invisibility. The Hakama is also made of chakra-reactive fabric, so you will not need to shed as many clothes to hide. Hayashi added. This first one is a gift from the Hyuga clan, but if you wish more, it will have to come from your inheritance. You have already done far more for me than I have any right to expect. Naruto replied with a deep bow. There is a pair of custom sandals underneath made from chakra metal and chakra-reactive fabric. Hayashi added. They will provide less protection than boots or standard ninja sandals, but it means you will no longer have to fight barefoot. Thank you, Hayashi-dano. Naruto said with another bow. Now, I believe that you have some Fuinjutsu lessons to attend? Hayashi prompted, and Naruto nodded. Go. I shall have the gifts placed in your house. Naruto bowed again and backed out of the entry hall before running off to one of the training dojos. Hinata, you and Naruto will be on the same team. Hayashi said, earning a grateful look from his eldest daughter. I am informed that the third shall be Inuzuka Kiba, and your sensei will be Uchiha Itachi. Ouch. Hinata winced. With Itachi dating Hana, may I go and start persuading Kiba that he will need to behave? Hayashi nodded and Hinata bowed before scurrying off. I will inform Naruto-san where Hinata-sama has gone after his lesson in the art of seals. Hizashi murmured and Hayashi nodded. Thank you, brother. Coming. Hinata hid a smile as she heard Kiba coming towards the door, occasionally pausing to swear or push something away from him. Although she could theoretically have used her Byakugan to observe what was happening, such a thing would have been a breach of the Inuzuka clan's privacy. Down, boy. Down. Good boy. Okay. Hinata. Hey, what you doing here? Good morning, Kiba-san. Hinata said with a small bow. Have you been informed of the teams yet? I think Mom knows, but I haven't had a chance to ask. Kiba mused. You should ask Ino. With her gossiping skills, she probably knows it already. I did not come to ask you for the information, Kiba-san. Hinata said quietly. May I enter? Ha. Oh, sure, please, come in. Kiba said, stepping aside to let her in. Do you want anything to eat or drink? Hinata shook her head slightly. Thank you, but no, Kiba-san. I am here because I know which team I am on. And you needed a shoulder to cry on? Kiba asked. Did you get assigned to a different one than Roto? I am on Rotokuin's team. Hinata replied. And so are you. For a moment, Kiba simply stared at her, then his eyebrows shot up. Wow, really? I'm with you in Roto? DM, that's cool. Our sensei will be Uchiha Itachi. Hinata said quickly and Kiba inhaled sharply. What? That no-good bastard? What no-good bastard? A voice asked and Kiba flinched. Nothing to worry about, sis. Really, nothing at all. I think that your brother just found out about the team he is going to be assigned to, or to be more precise, who his Jonin-sensei will be. Itachi's amused voice said and Kiba winced. I'm dead. I am so dead. He whimpered. So you, my idiot brother and Ruto, huh? Hana said, giving Kiba a sidelong glance that made him shrink back. I wonder if we'll find out what Ruto looks like. Did you know that the Chunin and Jonin have been placing bets? Tell me, is he handsome under that mask? Hinata blushed and her hand reflexively went to the pocket holding the most recent sketch that she had been working on. Hana caught the movement and quickly filched the paper, unfolding it and whistling. Wow, what a dish! If I wasn't with Red Ice here, I might have been tempted. Hana-san. Hinata growled, retrieving the picture and tucking it into an inner pocket. Hana stepped back and raised her hands defensively. Sorry. It's just that the curiosity has been driving us all nuts. You are one lucky girl though, you know that? Hinata blushed, one hand protectively placed over the folded sketch in her pocket. Chapter 7. Umino Irika entered the classroom and hid a smile as the noise level dropped precipitously. Welcome back, class. He said with a smile, then he let his face assume a more serious expression. Due to a training accident, Mizuki will not be joining us. The details are rather embarrassing, so I am sure that he would prefer you to not ask about it. Hinata and Naruto looked at each other and Hinata huffed. They had been told by a branch member that Mizuki had made the mistake of trying to break into the Hokage's tower to steal the Forbidden Scroll just as the Hokage was heading for a quiet meeting with Hayashi about covertly transferring all the money in the old Namikaze and Uzumaki accounts over to the new Urei clan accounts. Between Hiruzen's Bojutsu and Hayashi's Juken, Mizuki had been lucky to survive, although the injuries he had sustained meant that even after he finished serving his prison sentence, he would be unable to mold chakra or fight even at standard civilian levels. The other classes have already been assigned as teams 1 through 6. Team 7 will be. Irika paused as a knock sounded on the door, then it opened to reveal a trio of Jonin. Are we late? The tall, silver-haired one asked and Irika shook his head in disbelief. Actually, Kakashi, you're early. The Hokage told him to come 3 hours ago. The woman said with a smile. My name is Yuhi Kurenai and I am here for Team 8. Please will Uchiha Sasuke, Haruna Sakura and Aburame Shino come with me? Yes. The pink-haired girl shouted as she leapt up. Same team as Sasuke, Koen. Sakura quailed under the sudden death glare that Kurenai gave her. If you wish to pass, you will not act like a fangirl on this team. She ground out and Sakura nodded jerkily. Good. Now come on. As the three followed their teacher, Sasuke paused and looked at his older brother. You will do fine, little brother. Itachi smiled at him. She is an excellent Jonin and a true expert at Genjutsu. Go. Sasuke nodded and dashed off as Kakashi slouched forwards. Ino Shikacho Jr.'s, also known as Team 10, meet me on the roof. He said before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. Itachi stepped out of the way as Ino ran past, followed by Choji and a slouching Shikamaru. Well, I believe that means that you three with me. Itachi smiled. Irika-san, thank you for training them. I know that you must feel saddened to see them leave. Irika nodded with a bittersweet smile. I know you three will do me proud. We will, Irika-sensei. Kiba half-shouted and Itachi waved for them to follow him. Training Ground 7. At the training ground, Itachi sank down to sit cross-legged on the grass, leaning against the middle of the 3 target posts. As the 3 Genin settled down in front of him, Itachi began speaking. As you know, I am Uchiha Itachi, Inuzuka Hana's current boyfriend and fiancé. I enjoy training, being with Hana and teaching my younger brother Sasuke. My dislikes are those who act without honor, or who shirk their duties, and my dreams for the future are to help Konoha to become all that it can be. To that end, I will do my utmost to help you become the best ninja that you can be, assuming that you can work together. Kiba, please tell me about Ruto. Kiba blinked a few times as he thought, then he shrugged. Yuri Ruto, he has a weird Kekai Genkai that lets him turn invisible, and has no scent, which is how I know that it's him under that mask. He's very close to Hinata. I heard that they may be getting married at some point. At some point in the past, Hinata saved his life, but I don't know the details. Excellent. Itachi said. Hinata, please tell me about Kiba. Hinata bowed slightly before speaking. Kiba-san and his Ninken Akamaru are from the Inuzuka clan. Kiba has enhanced senses and can perform several of the Inuzuka partnership jutsu, as well as understanding what Akamaru says. His older sister is a Chunin and a vet with a subspeciality in Ninken. Although prone to impulsive acts, Kiba has a very strong sense of pack, and will face down any threat to protect those he cares about. Kiba glowed with pride as Itachi nodded. Good. Ruto. Hyuga Hinata is the former heiress of the Hyuga clan. She chose to step down in favor of her younger sister, so that she could be with me, although I still think the price was too high. Naruto said, earning a look from Hinata that mingled love, exasperation, and resignation. Hinata Haim has only basic skills in Juken, but is highly proficient in Juho, a fact which is at least partially explained by her strong water nature. She prefers not to seek attention, but has a very strong personality. Good. Itachi said. Now, the other way around. Kiba, describe Hinata. She's a babe. Kiba said, then he winced as his brain caught up with what his mouth had said. Sorry. I see. Itachi sighed. We will have to work on that. Hinata, please describe Ruto. Hinata blushed. Naruto-kun, he. Never mind. Itachi sighed. Ruto? Inuzuka Kiba is the second child of Inuzuka Tsum, the leader of the Inuzuka packs. His partner is the white-furred Ninken Akamaru, and the two of them have a strong bond. Kiba is prone to making thoughtless comments and speaking before thinking, but his loyalty is beyond reproach, and he is completely trustworthy. Good. You all have at least some ideas about each other. Itachi said. I have read your files and watched the graduation test. Ruto, my cousin Shursui was quite flabbergasted when he heard that you had duplicated the trick for which he is famous, but I could not see you using any chakra. How is this? Naruto paused, then reached up and unhooked his mask, removing it so that everyone could see his apparently empty hood. My Totan Kekai Genkai is always activated. Unless I use Henge, I am naturally invisible. Only Hinata and Hanabi can see me, and even then, they have to be using their Byakugans. Itachi blinked and his eyes briefly flared red. I cannot see you with my Sharingan. I admit that it is slightly disconcerting. Naruto shrugged. My Kage Bunshin are naturally invisible too. I deployed over a dozen before the test, and had them Kawarimi with me as quickly as they could. Thus, giving the impression that you were doing a high-speed seal-less Shunshin. Itachi realized. Brilliant. My clones can also Kawarimi with other people. Naruto continued. On a couple of occasions, one of my clones have accidentally swapped places with Hinata Haim. I don't know how many clones I can make. Last time I paid attention, I had made over 100. Itachi whistled. Should we enter a potentially dangerous situation, I will have you leave 5 clones trailing us so that should we be trapped, they can Kawarimi us to safety. We will have to practice that though. Can you become visible? Only if I henge, and I can only hold that for a few hours. Naruto said. Same for my clones, they're invisible unless they henge themselves. For some reason, Hinata finds them easier to see. Possibly because they are pure chakra constructs. Itachi mused. Please make a few clones. Naruto's hands moved briefly into a cross seal, and several near-silent pops sounded. Itachi activated his Sharingan and looked round. I still cannot see you, but I think I can just make out your clones. They are like ripples in the air. Thank you. I admit to being very impressed. Normally, I would set a test to see if you were worthy of becoming my genin team, but from what I have seen of you now and read in your files, such a test would merely be a waste of your time and mine. Therefore, congratulations, Shinobi of Konoha. Yeah. Kiba shouted, leaping up in celebration as Naruto kissed Hinata on her cheek, causing her to blush. A rustle caught their attention and they looked to see that Itachi had pulled out several pieces of paper. If you do not know your elemental affinity, please take a piece of chakra paper. Mine is water, Itachi-sensei. Hinata said quietly. I am also training in the medical arts. My primary is air, while I have lightning and fire as secondaries. Naruto said, earning a shocked look from Kiba and a raised eyebrow from Itachi. I don't know what I am. Kiba admitted and Itachi passed across two pieces of paper. Ha! One for you and one for Akamaru. Itachi explained. Channel some chakra into the paper. Kaiba frowned, then his groan turned to shock as the paper in his hand crumbled. Earth, an excellent element for strength. Itachi said, then he glanced at Akamaru. And it seems that Akamaru has a lightning affinity, excellent for piercing attacks. Cool. Kiba grinned as Akamaru yapped in agreement. I cannot help with Akamaru's use of lightning beyond the basics though. Itachi warned. All of my lightning jutsu require hand seals. We'll work something out. Kiba smirked. Hey, we know that Akamaru's a lightning type now. That gives us a good starting point. Indeed, it does. Itachi agreed. We shall meet here tomorrow at 9 o'clock to start your training. Kiba, Akamaru, please relay my respects to your mother and tell her that I said that she raised a fine shinobi. Kiba puffed up with pride at that. And that you don't seem too bad yourself. Itachi added in a deadpan voice, earning himself a disbelieving glare from Kiba. Hinata and Naruto both managed not to giggle, but it was a close-run thing. Kiba growled and stalked off while Itachi made several fast seals before turning to Hinata and Naruto. Hinata, you referred to Ruto as Naruto. Why? Hinata froze as Itachi gave her an expectant look, then Naruto sighed. I saw you making some seals. Does that mean that we are secure? At Itachi's nod, Naruto continued. I was born Uzumaki Naruto, an accident turned me invisible, and made everyone think I had died. I heard the Hokage's speech about who I really was and my burden, then I encountered Hinata Hime, and she offered me sanctuary. Her father was kind enough to help me take a new name and train as a shinobi. Interesting. Itachi mused. May I discuss this with the Hokage? He knows, as do several of my clan, but I do not think anyone else does. Hinata said quietly. Then I shall make certain that it remains a secret. Itachi said with a nod verging on being a formal bow. I shall see you both tomorrow, then. Well, you'll see Hinata Hime. Naruto laughed as he donned his mask once more. I'm invisible, remember? Indeed, you are, Ruto-san, indeed you are. Itachi, you're early. Hiruzen noted, looking up from the pile of paperwork on his desk. Is there a problem with your team? Yes and no. Itachi said, glancing round. I found out about Urei Ruto's history. Hiruzen froze, then his hands blurred into a sequence of seals that Itachi couldn't quite make out. The windows darkened and Hiruzen leaned forwards. tell me what you learned. I was told that Urei Ruto is none other than Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. How this came to be, I do not know. He was struck by lightning while trying to perform a chameleon jutsu. Hiruzen explained and Itachi nodded. Lightning. I had wondered why he had multiple affinities. The bolt may have interacted with his seal in an unexpected way. It did, and his invisibility is a true Kekai Genkai. Hiruzen said. He is invisible even to my Sharingan. Hiruzen's eyebrows shot up briefly. Really? I can barely make out the Kage Bunshin that he uses. Itachi confirmed. Hinata can apparently see him well enough to draw him. Interesting. Hiruzen mused. I wonder how? I may need to speak to Hayashi about this. May I come along as well when you do? Itachi asked. Of course. Yeah. Our first mission. Kiba leapt and punched the air as he led the way into the mission office, completely missing the brief smirk that Itachi had on his face. So, what is it? Are we going to escort a caravan? Wipe out bandits? Track down a Noopnin? Rescue a princess? Well, as new genin, you are cleared for D-rank missions. Hiruzen said from his position behind the desk. Now, since you are fairly early, we have painting a fence. Kiba froze, catching Tora. Kiba's eyes widened in horror, or helping out at the Inuzuka kennels. We will take the last. Itachi said and Kiba spun round. You just want to spend more time with my sis UMMMPH. WRRHRRMPH? Kiba, think. Naruto hissed at the boy he was restraining. Itachi gets more time with Hana, it puts him in a better mood, and he's more likely to teach us something good. Kiba froze, then growled as he slumped. Naruto removed his hand and Kiba glowered at him. So, you good now? Kiba growled again and Naruto cocked his head slightly before nodding. We're good to go, sensei. Itachi nodded as he snagged the thrown scroll out of the air with a movement that bespoke incredible skill and control. Good. Kiba, you know the area. Lead the others there. Kiba perked up. All right. I'm the leader. Come on. Pausing to bow to the Hokage, the other two genins followed Kiba out of the room. Not going with them? I'll meet them there. Itachi said with a microscopic shrug, then he produced a picture and handed it over to Hiruzen. I thought you might appreciate seeing this. It is one of the failed pictures. Hiruzen looked at it and smirked. Itachi was stood in the background of the picture with Hinata directly in front of him. Kiba was wide-eyed and staring at Naruto, whose presence was only deducible via the apparently floating tunic, trousers, gloves and hapari, while Akamaru was pointedly staring the other way with an expression suggesting he was rather disconcerted. The group pose was undermined, however, by the fact that Hyuga Hanabi had chosen to spectacularly glomp Naruto just at the instant that the picture was being taken. In retrospect, having the picture taken in the garden outside Hinata and Ruto's home may not have been our greatest move. Itachi admitted as Hiruzen handed the picture back with a smile. We eventually had to ask Hizashi-san to hold her so that we could take the picture without interruptions. So I saw. Hiruzen agreed. So, shouldn't you get moving? After all, you do have the mission scroll. Itachi nodded, then he seemed to vanish in a slight blur, causing Hiruzen's eyebrows to rise. Someone's been studying under Shisui, I see. Itachi stepped into the Inuzuka compound and froze, glancing round at the motionless Inuzuka and Ninken, all of whom were staring at his genin team. His team, who was floating 4 feet in the air, sat in classic meditation poses, except for Akamaru, who was simply loosely sprawled and ignoring the fact that he wasn't actually on the ground. Itachi. Some said slowly, what have you been teaching my son? And how did you teach him so fast? It wasn't me. Itachi said quickly, then on a hunch he activated his Sharingan briefly and chuckled in amused disbelief. Alright, Roto. You can stop that now. Dispel your invisible clones. Naruto nodded and all three genin, and the white Nin-ken, dropped to the ground, landing lightly as Tsum stared at them. How? Ruto-san can create invisible solid clones. Itachi shrugged. He was having them carry the team. It is a very interesting trick though. It may even be a valid combat tactic if applied correctly. After all, overestimating an enemy can be as lethal as underestimating them. True. Tsum mused, then her eyes flickered past Itachi, and she grabbed the scroll from his hands. You'll be busy, so I'll handle the briefing. Itachi opened his mouth to reply, then a pair of arms wrapped around him. Hey, Itakun. Hana whispered into his ear as her three dogs started to bounce around like hyperactive puppies. Come on, let's have some fun. Ew. Kiba whinged. I so didn't need to see that. Blow. Quiet, pup. Tsum grinned. Group 3 needs their walks, use Route 4. Got it? Okay, Mom. Kiba said, moving towards the kennel enclosure. Come on, guys. Kiba-san. Hinata said, the corner of her mouth twitching up slightly as she delivered the punchline. You are aware that I'm a girl rather than a guy, right? Kiba froze. Yeah, I meant, when I said, you see, Hinata started to giggle as Kiba tried to pull himself out of his verbal hole and Kiba glared at her. You have an evil sense of humor. Ruto's a bad influence on you. Hinata gave him an innocent look and he shook his head before stalking off. They're back. Hana noted as the background noise rose slightly and Itachi sighed. Well, I guess that means that we have to stop. Drat. Hana giggled as she adjusted her top, then she stood up and stretched. You should neaten up and head out. She said, pausing to kiss Itachi's cheek. You don't want to traumatize your genin, do you? It might be worth it. Itachi countered as he watched Hana finish adjusting her clothes. But you are right. Time to be a Jonin sensei again. Damn. You really need more swear words. Hana giggled as she opened the door to reveal the Himura triplets sprawled across the threshold. Thanks guys, but we need to head out now. All three Nin-ken rose and yawned, revealing their teeth, as Itachi slipped past them, giving each one a quick stroke between the ears as he did so. I will see you again this evening. Sure. Hana smirked, taking the opportunity to give him another quick kiss. I'll be waiting. All right. Itachi said as he led his team back to their normal training ground. Since you have done such a good job, it is time for you to learn something. Can any of you perform the tree walking? Both Naruto and Hinata raised their hands and Kiba sighed. Water walking? Both Naruto and Hinata nodded and Itachi shrugged, then made a Kage Bunshin. All right. Kiba, you and Akamaru are with me. The clone said, leading the duo towards the trees as Itachi looked at the other two genin. So, I guess that it is time for you to show me what other skills you have. Hi, Sensei. Chapter 8. A C rank already? Hiruzen said curiously, looking at Itachi and the trio of genin lined up behind him. It has only been a month and a half, are you certain that you are not pushing them too hard? No, Lord Hokage. Itachi said. Roto has shown that he has virtually mastered the Kage Bunshin, making him a literal one-man army. When you include his Kekai Genkai, his battlefield potential is quite terrifying. Terrifying. Hinata has shown she is very skilled in Juho, and above average with thrown weapons, while Kiba and Akamaru have pushed themselves to the point that they have learned several of the more advanced jutsu of the Inuzuka. I intend to start them all on their elemental affinity soon. I believe that they have reached the level that will allow them to do so. Hiruzen nodded. Alright, I can see that you have put quite a bit of thought into this. We have an upcoming escort mission in a couple of days that I think will suit your team. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Itachi said, then he looked round and smiled at one of the group that had just entered the mission hall. Little brother. Big brother. Sasuke replied with a small smile. Kurenai, Shino-san, Sakura-chan. Kurenai nodded back as she led her team to the mission desk. Another D rank please. Of course. As Kurenai accepted the proffered scroll, Sakura gave them a calculating look. Aren't you getting a D rank too? We're getting a C rank. Kiba said before either of his teammates could silence him, and Sasuke looked slightly affronted. What? But Itachi gave his younger brother a quelling look even as Kurenai sighed. I don't think that you are quite ready for a C rank yet. How about a test? Itachi countered. We meet up after you have done your mission and our students fight. Whichever team wins, gets the mission. Kurenai stood still for a few moments, thinking it through, then she nodded. All right. Then we had better take a D rank as well so that we do not have an unfair advantage. Itachi said, turning to accept a scroll. The C rank is ours. Sakura gloated as Itachi's team appeared, causing the rest of her team to stare at her. What? You know I'm right. How did you come to that conclusion? Sasuke asked curiously and Sakura shrugged. Hey, Ruto and Hinata may have been the top 2 rookies of the year, but Sasuke-kun and I were pretty damned close, and they've got Kiba, the dead last. Whoever goes against Kiba will win while Shino can drain the chakra of whoever he's up against and Sasuke-kun can zap whoever he's against. Sasuke smirked as he played a small bolt of electricity between 2 of his fingers. He had learned about his Raiton affinity, and had worked almost obsessively to get it to a usable level, although he could do little more than deliver temporarily paralyzing shocks. And you? Shino asked. And I can slap down whoever I go against. Sakura smirked. I spar against Ino sometimes, and I'm getting good. We will see. Shino droned as Itachi greeted Kurenai. How should we do this? Kurenai asked. Best of 3 or Battle Royale? Battle Royale. Itachi replied almost instantly. It will help in testing their teamwork as well. Kurenai raised one eyebrow at the certainty in his voice, but she simply nodded. Rules? We use Training Field 35, it has several different terrains which will increase the difficulty level, and I do not believe that either of our teams has used it yet, thus negating the home field advantage. Anyone goes out of the training field, they are out of the fight. No lethal strikes, and if we think it is getting too dangerous, we stop it. Agreed. Kurenai said, noting that Itachi had gone out of his way to not try and stack the contest. Alright team, we're heading out. Team 7, on me. Sakura grinned as she and her teammates squared off against Team 7. Ruto-kun? Hinata whispered and Naruto nodded. I've already deployed some clones behind us, with some of them tasked with swapping you out if things get iffy. What's the plan? Kiba asked. Shino is the greatest threat with his Kikai, so we try to take him down first. Naruto replied quietly. I'll send a dozen clones to trap the other 2, but the chakra-draining abilities of those insects makes me think that my clones won't be that useful against him. So, Akamaru and me attack Shino first and Hinata follows us? Sounds like a plan. Naruto said. Hinata's Juken could be a problem. Sasuke said slowly. She'll be our primary target. Shino, can you drain her? She uses Juyo rather than Juken, and I believe that I can. Shino said emotionlessly. I'll slap down Muttboy. Sakura said. And I have Ruto. Sasuke finished. Alright, we go on command, that C rank will be ours. They look quite eager. Kurenai said. Do you want to start it, or shall I? Itachi shrugged and Kurenai looked at the 6 young teens. Begin. Sakura leapt forwards, then suddenly felt herself being grabbed by a dozen invisible hands. A quick glance sideways showed that Sasuke was likewise suspended in midair, even as Kiba and Akamaru dashed forwards, aiming at Shino, who was disgorging his Kikai as fast as he could. Fong over Fong. Shino almost managed to avoid the twin twisters of destruction, but the glancing impact knocked him off balance for just a few seconds too long. You are within range of my divination. 8 trigrams, 32 palms. Hinata's palms blurred and Shino collapsed bonelessly onto the ground even as Naruto strolled up to stand between the struggling Sakura and Sasuke, unsheathing a pair of kunai and holding them to their necks. I think we win. Kurenai's jaw dropped and she reflexively unleashed a burst of chakra to dispel any genjutsu. When the scene in front of her remained unchanged, with 2 of her students hovering at blade point in midair, she turned to Itachi. How? Totan Kekai Genkai combined with Kage Bunshin. Itachi said with a slight smirk. Damn. Kurenai cursed. How in Kami's name are we supposed to be able to stand up to whatever that was? I have already planned out several possible counters. Itachi said, looking at where Sakura was kneeling over Shino, her hands glowing pale green. On Shino's other side, Hinata was doing the same thing. I see that I am not the only one who is encouraging their kunoichi to learn medical ninjutsu. That in genjutsu. Kurenai said. Her chakra control is as close to perfect as it is possible to be, although her reserves still need more work. Roto has the opposite problem. Itachi commented. He uses Kage Bunshin to help him manage his control. He has near Kage level chakra. Kurenai whistled as Itachi turned his attention back to where Shino was sitting up, still rather groggy. Damn, that was awesome. Kiba laughed as they followed Itachi to their normal training ground. I mean, you've got your own house, a girl who loves you, and a Kekai Genkai that lets you kick people's asses without them even knowing that you're there. You have to be the luckiest person ever. The Rion I'm lucky is walking just next to me. Naruto replied, giving Hinata a one-armed hug. If not for Hinata Heim, I wouldn't be here now. Hinata blushed at the praise, but nodded in confirmation as they reached their destination. Itachi led them to the middle of the field, then sat down and motioned for them to follow suit. Our mission is to escort a bridge builder back to the land of waves. Itachi said, frowning at the scroll. It is classified as a C rank. For the way there, we will be limited to civilian speed. For the way back, we will be practicing branch leaping. Comments? If we are traveling at civilian speeds on the way there, we'll need to pack for several weeks, maybe even a month. Naruto offered and Itachi nodded in approval. Tense. Hinata blushed, earning a raised eyebrow. Ruto-kun and I already have a tent. Itachi's eyebrow lifted further as he considered it. I see. You are betrothed, so I should have expected it. For a moment, an uncomfortable silence settled over the field, a silence broken by Kiba, who had completely failed to notice the emotional atmosphere. I can get a one-man tent from my clan's warehouse. Kiba said with a grin. Itachi-sensei. I keep a field kit prepared at all times. Itachi said. A tent is part of it. Medical supplies. Hinata added, stroking a scroll stored in an inside pocket, earning another nod of approval. I have a basic first aid kit as well. Naruto added and Kiba perked up. I have a vet kit which doubles as a medical kit. Hinata blinked. Kiba-san, would you mind if I sought lessons from Hana-san, so that if Akamaru gets hurt, I know how to help him? Sis would love to get a helper at the clinic. Kiba shrugged. I know the basic stuff, but I tend to concentrate on the attacking stuff. I will be happy to rearrange the training sessions to help you accommodate that. Itachi said, earning a look of gratitude from both Kiba and Hinata. Bring your mission packs to the veterinary clinic tomorrow at 10 so that I can check them. Do not worry about rations yet, we shall collect them from the Akamichi commissary tomorrow. Unless you have spent all your money already, you should have enough for several weeks of rations. Kiba paused, then exchanged glances with Akamaru. Sorry buddy, looks like we'll have to wait until after the mission to get that new basket for you. The bell above the door jangled and Hana looked up, as did the 3 large gray dogs lying in various corners of the office. Hinata, Ruto. She smiled in greeting. Itachi-kun and my bro are waiting out the back. Just head through. Thank you, Hana-sama. Naruto replied with a slight bow as he and Hinata moved to the indicated door. Opening it, Naruto briefly scanned the inside of the room before moving aside to let Hinata through. You realize that Hinata could have used her Byakugan, it would have been less obvious. Itachi noted and Hinata and Ruto glanced at each other. Ah, sorry, Itachi-sensei. I didn't. It is all right, Hinata-chan. Itachi said, interrupting her apology. I know about the tradition of not using the Byakugan in public within the walls of Konoha without a proper reason. Bear in mind, though, that the rules are different beyond the walls. Hi, Itachi-sensei. Excellent. Itachi said. Now that you are all here, move to a table and unpack. I want to see all of your weapons and supplies. The clink of weapons and rustling of scrolls briefly filled the room, then Itachi motioned for them to move to his table. As you can see, I have my camping equipment sealed in scrolls for ease of transport. Spare clothing is in this one, camping rations in this one. I have several bars of emergency rations in this pouch for use while moving. For weapons, I have a tanto, 30 kunai, 30 shuriken, and 3 rolls of ninja wire. I also have several packs of seal tags, explosive, gas, flashbang, and a few extras and some scrolls that you do not need to learn about at this time. Now, let us see what Hinata has. Hinata moved to behind her table. My medical kit is in this scroll with the basics stored in this pouch for emergencies. Kosan was kind enough to advise me. This scroll contains camping gear while this one contains rations. I have several ration bars in this pouch as well. Although I rely mainly on Juho, I have 10 kunai and 20 shuriken as well as a roll of ninja wire. Finally, this scroll holds clothing. Excellent. Itachi said, picking up one of the kunai and examining it. You look after your weapons very well. Thank you, Itachi-sensei. Kiba? Kiba nodded and strode across to his table. I have a standard Inuzuka camping pack scroll, a standard Inuzuka field medical kit, 2 scrolls of rations for myself and Akamaru. 15 kunai, 20 shuriken and a roll of ninja wire. Good. Itachi said, picking up the camping scroll and reading the inscription. A Type 3 camping scroll, an excellent choice for an escort mission. Yeah, sis told me what to pick and why. Kiba admitted and Itachi nodded in approval. Only an idiot turns down advice. I am glad that you are not an idiot. As Kiba grinned, Itachi turned his attention to the final member of the party. Ruto, why is your table almost empty? It isn't. Naruto said as his hands seemed to vanish for a moment, reappearing with a kunai. I use pouches woven from my hair. My Kekai Genkai means that the pouches are invisible, thus I can carry them while using my invisibility. Impressive. Itachi admitted, letting Naruto hand him one of the pouches so that he could examine it. What is your loadout? Well, I rely mainly on my Totan blood limit, so I carry a dozen kunai, 2 dozen shuriken and 2 rolls of ninja wire. The visible pouch contains my camping scroll, although Hinata-heim carries the tent, as well as my rations and extra clothes. I also keep a few ration bars and similar on me. Yes, I can see the problems that your blood limit brings. Itachi mused. Your loadout is lighter than the others, but with your Kage Bunshin abilities, I do not see that as an insurmountable problem. Naruto nodded as he reclaimed the pouches and started to reattach them to his uniform. Do you not have to remove your clothing to vanish? Naruto shook his head. Only the mask, gloves and coat. The rest is made from materials that can channel my chakra. Watch. Itachi's eyebrows shot up as Naruto shed the mask, gloves and coat before vanishing. Useful. Expensive. Naruto countered as his clothing reappeared, and he donned the mask and gloves once more. This outfit was a gift. I'd need to take a B-rank mission or hire to afford another. I shall keep that in mind. Itachi noted. You may all repack your loadouts, they are satisfactory. Kiba waved as the rest of his team vanished, Itachi-sensei towards the Uchiha compound, and the lovebirds towards their cottage. So, you finally have a C-rank. Hana said, coming up behind him and leaning on the doorframe. Itachi-kun did say that you were improving quite rapidly. He wouldn't have asked for a C-rank if he didn't think you could handle it. Yeah, I'm awesome. Kiba boasted, then he sighed and crouched to stroke Akamaru. But Ruto's even more awesome. He uses invisible clones. Keep it quiet, bro. Hana warned and Kiba looked at her in confusion. Those are powerful weapons that enemies won't expect, and the longer they fail to learn of them, the more successes your team will be able to claim before they wise up. It's why several of our clan techniques are banned from being used unless you can ensure that there will be no witnesses or survivors to talk about it. Most clans have the same thing, techniques that they hold onto tightly in order to provide a trump card when truly needed. Kiba nodded slowly, then he followed his sister back into the clinic. Sitting down, he scooped Akamaru up and placed him in his lap, so that he could continue stroking him. Sis. Hana looked at him curiously. I heard that Ruto was going to form his own clan. Isn't that rather hard to do? I don't know that much about how to found clans yet. You're better off talking to Mom about that. Hana said with a slight shrug. Kiba nodded. Okay, thanks. Kazan? Inuzuka Tsum looked up from the ever-damned paperwork to see Kiba stood in the study doorway. Eagerly seeing him as an excuse to put off the paperwork, she waved him in. Hey, Pop. What you after? Information about clan founding. Kiba said, then he caught his mother's confused expression. Not for me. I heard that Ruto was going to become a clan leader at some point, and I wanted to know about what it meant and if I could help him. Tsum leaned back in her chair, one hand dropping to rub the ears of Kuramaru, who was lounging on the floor. Ruto. I assume that you mean Urei Ruto, the boy with the Totan Kekii Genkai, the one that means no one can see or smell him. My teammate. Kiba confirmed and Tsum nodded. A blood limit like that is almost a guarantee of being allowed to form a clan. He only needs 4 clans to vote in approval, assuming he has a fiancée. Hinata. Kiba supplied and Tsum's eyebrows lifted slightly. Well, that gives him the Hyuga vote. Any other clans that you know of linked to him? The Yamanaka, Nara and Akamichi all seem to like him. Kiba said. We often train with Team 10 and Ino mentioned that the Hyuga attend the gatherings. That's 4 votes. Tsum nodded. When he gets old enough, he will become a clan head. I believe that I will vote for him as well. Having you on his team means that we Inuzuka have a chance of being clan allies with his clan. Why is that so important? Kiba asked curiously. I mean, he's only one person. With a Kekii Genkai that makes him almost unbeatable. Tsum countered. With his children inheriting it, and their children, it will only be a few generations until Konoha becomes the power in the elemental nations because of his clan. If he learns to move silently as well. He's already pretty quiet. Kiba offered. Then his clan will become the perfect assassins, completely unstoppable. Tsum finished. It's no wonder that the Hyuga sought to link him to their clan by marriage. If his invisibility stretches to the Byakugan, then they would be terrified of having him as an enemy. Hinata and Hanabi-chan are the only two Hyuga who can see him. Kiba said with a slight shrug. Itachi-sensei can't see him even using his Sharingan, but he can just about make out Ruto's Kagebunshin. Sum whistled in amazement. Kiba, after you lot get back from your mission, you are going to give me a full debriefing on Ruto's abilities, and then you are going to act as my messenger. There is no way that I am letting the Inuzuka miss making allies with a clan as powerful as his is going to be. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.